Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Keys to AWS Optimization, where we have got an exciting story today all about wind energy. A bit different to what we normally cover, but we are going to be hitting some optimization elements, just not in the kind of normal way we look at it. And I have two lovely guests with me today, Margozia and Pradeep. Margozia is a customer, alongside customer, and then Pradeep is from AWS, from the team that I sit in as well. So we're going to be sharing a little bit about that. But as always, drop any comments, questions in the chat as we go. But let's kick off with our fun starter question, which is if you've had a frugal week or a splurgy week. And chat, obviously, I want to know what week you've had. But Pradeep, why don't you go first? Frugal week or splurgy week from your point of view?
Well, I would say it was a frugal for me. It's been 2 weeks since I've been back from vacations, and we spent a lot. We were in India, then Abu Dhabi, so we decided to kind of just settle down, take it easy, get ready for the school and
Wow.
the normal routine.
Oh my goodness, that sounds like a great trip. That I can understand why as well, needing frugal. Margozia, what about you?
I wish I could say it was frugal, but it was my first week back from holidays, and I'm sure those of you that have kids, you would know what I mean. The kids grow on sun, basically. They always grow during summer, and then the 1st of September, and they have nothing to wear, they have nothing for school, and you basically have to get a bank loan in order to cope with it. So that was my week.
Oh goodness, yeah, the back to school, always buying all the things you need for back to school. We have to get a whole new set of kit before we go back. I love that. Well, I agree. It was a very splurgy week. I was on holiday. Some of you might have missed me last week because Savannah was talking all about the car. I was off in Albania having a lovely kind of week's holiday. So many disasters, but I won't even go into it. It was very fun, but also very chaotic. And we have some lovely messages in the chat. Hi for my favorite cat collector. Yes, it's the wrong way around. My cat collection is growing. I just need to buy some more pins to send them up. If anyone has any hats they want me to wear, let me know. And cosplay is in the house as well. Hello, everybody. So let's get into the show. Going to proper. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Steph Gooch. I'm a senior SA advocate here to help you on your FinOps journey. We're going to do some origin story intros to introduce you to my guests before we kind of dive into this topic about how you guys, I mean, it's such a big concept, how you kind of optimize this wind permitting for WindEurope. It sounds kind of like, what are you talking about, Steph? Because you're using the word wind a lot. And I'm like, what's happening? We will go into it. Do not worry. But Pradeep, why don't you go first and do your kind of 1 minute origin story for us?
Yeah, sure thing. So hi, everybody. My name is Pradeep Singh. I'm the digital innovation and lead with AWS, almost 17 years of background in the energy industry. My origin, I would say my career path reads more like somebody playing career bingo. I started, as a seismic engineer working offshore with, hard hat and boots on. I used to work in Gulf of Mexico offshore. Then I became a McKinsey consultant, and then now I help energy companies turn AI hype into actual customer value with AWS. So I literally went from shaking the ground to digitally shaking the energy industry now. So very happy to be a part of the show and sharing this case study with you today.
I love that. How have you used that kind of a description often, or did you just come up with that?
I've used it once in one of the workshops I did, so it kind of stuck with me. Yeah.
They're like, this is the one. This is the one.
Yeah.
All right, Malgosia, do you want to give us your kind of quick origin story before we dive into some more of your background in a sec?
Sure. My name is Małgosia. I'm Polish. I live in Brussels. I've been in WindEurope, so this association that is promoting more deployment of renewables, especially wind. And I've been working in the association for the past 21 years. So I'm the longest serving employee of WindEurope. It's if I could maybe just give a very brief overview for all of you that never heard about WindEurope. It's an association here in Brussels where we are based that like other probably 3,000 organizations that are here in Brussels is advocating for in our case more renewables, more wind. And it's the second largest in Brussels. So there are many. You can basically find an association lobbying, advocating for everything, cornflakes, and there's a European Parents Organization, and like pretty much everything. And we are one of those. The European institutions are here in Brussels, European Commission, European Parliament, and we very much work on the European regulation, but also on technology. And permitting is one of the headache. I think since the moment I've joined, we've been hearing about permitting, and here 21 years later, we're still hearing about permitting being a big problem.
Ah, interesting. So we're going to dive into some of like the permitting challenges in a moment, and I love that you're saying that there's so many of these organizations. Who knew that there were so many all kind of embarking on these different things? And I feel like wind energy is probably going to be one of the better ones as well, isn't it? It's something that people are trying to push for, which is great. Love that. Because folks who are watching who are from more of a FinOps point of view, we all know that there is something called GreenOps. We're trying to also optimize our costs and our efficiency to be better for the environment, to not waste as much energy on resources we're not using. And so that's very like common language we talk about, but this is even going further back to where it's kind of come from. And so what we're going to be talking about today is the challenge that was just mentioned about these permits and the way that AWS partnered with WindEurope to speed up and optimize the process through something called digital innovation. And so we're going to hand over to Pradeep in a second to explain what that actually is, especially when it comes to the context of the team that we sit in, which is the customer acceleration team. So Pradeep, do you want to explain what your team does and what this kind of workflow looks like, or what looks like with customers?
Yeah, sure, Steph. So I'm part of the team called the Customer Acceleration Team, and within that Customer Acceleration Team is the Digital Innovation Team that I'm part of. And what we have seen is, we have seen most of the organizations when they're trying to, implement technology, they go to the next AI tool or next technology and say, how are we going to implement it? How are we going to apply this? Let's go tech shopping in a way, right? It's like, you're planning a dinner party and you have a shiny new oven and you were like, let's invite friends and let's cook the new dish, right? But the way Amazon thinks at it is very different. We flip the script and we say, before we invite people, who are we going to invite? What do they like, right? And how are we going to make this dinner, something which they will remember? Then we kind of work backwards to figure out what is the dish we're going to prepare, what tools, ingredients we're going to use. It's not starting with the shiny oven and, let's go cook something and then invite people. So we kind of flip the script and we literally call this process working backwards from the user. So we like to ask those hard questions first, and we apply this methodology to kind of every problem we are trying to solve with technology. So we kind of put the technology as a second or a third step, and we put the users and the customers at the center of it. And I'll talk more through this on how we applied it in this case.
Yeah, and it's this, I think, again, and I'm always going to be drawing back to like the finance point of view for this, but it's such a great example of not diving into using the newest or best kind of technology for something that you don't really need, or like over provisioning thing and getting too much stuff for something that's not relevant. But I love that analogy. I'm definitely going to steal that. If you want to see more about what we have in terms of the kind of customer acceleration team that we sit in, then check out the LinkedIn group for any kind of updates and more work that we've done in this kind of space. So let's get into this permitting challenge, and then we'll also talk about how we work together. So Marcos, what was the challenge? And you mentioned obviously permitting. You're like, oh, this has been the worst thing for us since you've started your career there. Can you give us a little bit more information to kind of set the scene of what this is?
Sure. Pleasure. Love talking about it. When we think about wind technology, is a technology that has really developed and matured over the last years. Just to give you the example, that the first offshore wind farm, it was only 11 turbines. And it could power around 2,000 homes. It was in Denmark, offshore wind farm, and it could power 2,000 homes for a year. Now the technology is so powerful that just one spin of an offshore wind turbine can power an average household for 2 days. Just one spin.
Oh,
So the
what is
technology,
one rotation?
that's one rotation, just one rotation.
Oh my goodness, that took me a second. That's oh wow.
I know we talk a lot about megawatts and gigawatts, but I think this is very, very visual and something easy to imagine how powerful and visualize how powerful the technology is. And okay, I've been working here for such a long time, so of course I might be a bit biased when I tell you wind is great and it's a great technology and it should be the backbone of the European or global energy system, and that's what we're working on. For many years, when we talked about permitting, many policymakers and just general public, you've been thinking it's about NIMBYs, so not in my backyard. So people basically say, "Oh, I don't want to have a wind farm, wind turbines that I can see through my window." The truth is that people that live with wind farms, when their projects developed in a way that is together with community in the right way, the highest support for wind we have in those communities, in communities living with wind farms. So we started looking at it like, okay, so what is the problem? What is the problem? And also we wanted to find arguments that would allow us to really get to the bottom of the real issue, rather than just listening to the people talking. Yes, people just don't want to have wind farms. And maybe allow me here to do an analogy. Pradeep, you did the analogy with dinner, and here maybe I can just give you also a simple analogy to visualize what the problem is. So imagine that you buy a piece of land somewhere in a rural area in a small village, and you want to build a house. And I'm pretty sure that even if you live in a very modern village, you still have a very similar process. You still need to get maybe an architects to deliver 100 pages of design, how you want the house to look like. Then you need to go to the municipality or to a local office to show someone what you want to do. Then you need then they need to check manually. Do you have all the stamps? How the design looks like? Do we like it? Is the roof okay? So they are checking it. Most of the time, it's done in a very manual way. And now imagine that is this whole process that is happening in a very similar way for a wind farm, but it's like 1,000 times more complicated because it's like 1,000 times bigger. So imagine that it's not then a folder with 100 pages, but it's a truck. It's a truck with hundreds of thousands of pages sometimes that the company that is developing this project needs to get to the municipality. Then in municipality, in a small, our projects are not in the middle of a modern city. It is in rural areas. It is in small municipalities. So you have a person sitting there knowing nothing about this technology that is supposed to look through all the papers. And what we've noticed is that that's where the problem starts. You basically arrive with all those papers, you get in front of the municipality, someone is looking at your fourgonette, at your van with papers, and it's basically saying, "Oh no, I'm not touching it."
Yeah, and so too much, too much work.
Exactly. Someone needs to then unload it, look at through all the papers, and that's where when we start with this huge problem of people just not knowing what to do with it, with treating it like this is like on top of all the other things that they have to do. In most cases, there's a person in this municipality or permitting organization, permitting office. They deal with all sorts of permits. So it's not like they are expert in wind farm or solar farm. They deal with all sorts of problems, and it's a very similar process. It's just that our projects are much more complicated. So it's really important that we come up with some easy solutions, something that will allow the humans where they are not needed, where the human force is not needed.
Yeah, that is insane to think about the scale of that, and I feel like it's when you put that kind of scale in front of it, like you said, imagine a house, and then you imagine those things, they're crazy. And then it's not just one, there's obviously like so many, and the kind of space that it takes up and the technology. You're right, this is very different to what people.
And you know how long it takes? It can take up to 14 years.
Wow.
The average is around 8 years to get a permit. And I've told you before the example with how technology is changing. So
Yeah.
from the moment that you have your project designed, this is how it's going to look like. Till you get the permit, in some cases, the equipment, the turbines don't even exist anymore. It's like they are not produced anymore.
Really? So it's been approved, but you're like, that's old school. That doesn't exist.
Yeah, and then they go back to you and say, "Oh no, but you can't use the new technology. You have to use the old turbines."
It's like too stressful. That is wild to think about the scale of that. And sometimes it's interesting though, in what you're kind of alluding to is a thing that we see a lot of customers have these challenges in their organizations where there is so many things to jump through, so many issues that people have, that when it lands on their desk, they're like, I don't have time for this. This is not a priority for me. When in fact, it should be a priority. Wind farm should be a priority for us all. I'm going to put it out there.
Yeah.
We're going to be greedy, guys. We're going to find use of it. But that, go on, sorry, Pradeep.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, Steph, just to put things in perspective, I think Malgosia gave a great example of how this is at a local level. But if I were to put a kind of, the scale perspective here at the European level, I think why we're dealing with this problem now, over the recent years, because it's kind of an historic moment. If you see, last year in 2024 was the first time when the renewable energy actually overtook the fossil fuels. So we know the demand is there. There's more wind and solar energy than used to be the fossil fuel energy. So it's going to go up and up. We know that. And if I remember correctly, in Davos this year, the people who make the wind turbines, in Europe, they said we can make up to 32 gigawatt capacity of wind turbines. So we have the capacity to build wind turbines. And we have this, we have the demand, we have the supply, but the problem is in middle, right? It's like, another analogy which comes to mind. You have an awesome restaurant, an awesome chef who can cook like 100, who can serve to 100 customers, but you're only getting 70 customers. And it's not about the customers are not there. The reservation system is broken. It's as simple as that. And the bottleneck here is the permitting process. So we're trying to kind of match that. We have the demand, we have the supply. We just want to solve the middle part, and that's where the permitting kind of process comes in.
Someone's put, he's making me hungry. Talking around. He's got a side business going on. Well, that's an interesting point as well. And Pradeep, maybe from your point of view, like this seems to be a case where the process hasn't really evolved with the way that technology has developed. Things haven't. This seems to be quite an old school process. Have you seen a lot in this industry or other industries that are similar?
I would say it's not just wind energy or this process. I see it across the board, whether it's commodities trading, utility billing, grid modernization, or grid transmission. You see it everywhere you go. Field operations. You pick any part of the energy industry. That's where I mainly serve. I see it all the time. I'll give an example, and that's from my McKinsey days. I was actually, and this is not a mom and pop shop. I'm talking to a multi-billion-dollar organization. Here is a PhD, who geoscientist who has PhD in geoscience, and how he starts his day. He actually manually copies. He used to. I don't know if the process changed now, but he used to actually manually copy the data he had in 12 different systems. Right, so that's how I see the process being broken everywhere. You have the technologies, you'll build the best geoscience software available, but things are not talking to each other. The process is still manual. I see it across the industry, and this is a problem which needs to be solved. And it was the same process here.
Wow. Yeah, that is the word manual just sends shivers through me. I just don't want to hear people doing, especially when it doesn't need to be. Like you said, like some things we do need to do manually, right? There's always going to be situations where you need humans to do something that involves whether being creative, having conversations and stuff like that. But copying some data across multiple platforms is not the thing to do. And just to jump back on the kind of the points you made earlier about the time and the spins and how much energy it produces, people are commenting like, oh, wow, and that they've learned something new today. I have as well. I think of whenever I see wind farms, I always think they look really beautiful. So, but I almost put one in my garden. I haven't got a garden. I'm in London. But then feel free to. But I know we talked about sort of having some fun wind facts. Did you have any other ones, Margosia?
I have some fun wind facts. I will tell you in a moment. If I could just go back to what you said about the manual work and how can we save actually time of people on the manual work that can be very easily be done automatically, and then use this time where this human approach, the human face, the human contact is needed. And here with those huge projects, when you think about, I think we should treat the wind farms or solar plants as any infrastructure project. House, road, supermarket, gas station. You have to, if you are bringing this project to a community, to local people, you have to do it with them behind. And the only way to do it with people behind is to interact with them. And that this human interaction element is very important. But what is happening now, people are so stuck with all those papers and they don't know what to do with it. They angry about it. They have no time. There are a lot of issues with transparency, delays, and we could solve it by really understanding which part of this process can be done automatically, and where the time save can be best used actually for this human interaction. So fun facts. I heard people saying, for example, that they like wind turbines. It's a pity that they just use so much energy to spin. So they not produce energy, but they just use energy to spin. So they are like a landscape decoration. Yes, I heard also people. I heard people saying that that they found some of the developers of wind farms, that they would find chicken, like the supermarket chicken, under the turbines, just to prove that the turbines are killing birds.
Specifically chickens.
Specifically chicken. Yeah, specifically chicken.
Famously, wait, I feel like my
flying
facts come from the
chickens. There must
film.
be flying
I was like, I've seen the film Chicken Run, and I'm pretty sure the whole plot is the chickens can't fly.
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
And maybe last one, hydrogen. There was a big hype on hydrogen, and I heard one politician saying that yes, hydrogen is a silver bullet because it's a new technology that doesn't need renewables, and there are so many problems with renewables, and has not realized that actually green hydrogen, I mean, you have to do it with wind or solar. So hydrogen is not a separate technology that doesn't need renewables, for anyone who was wondering.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't even know about that. Chat, back me up that the chickens don't fly, right? I need to know. I need some people in the chat to confirm. Just drop in a comment. So if I'm panicking, I'm pretty sure. That's fascinating. But yeah, it seems people are somewhat opposed. Someone's just said birds aren't real. Just no birds, they're not real. It's a classic conspiracy. It seems that a lot of people there is this issue you have to deal with people not wanting to have the wind farms, and then there's also, even when you kind of have an area that would want it and is open to the development of it, you have this issue. So with that, let's get into how this problem was solved, the kind of interesting part of it. Pradeep, do you want to go through kind of how this project started and kind of a base for it, especially how you guys worked with WindEurope and with CAT as well?
Absolutely. So what happened here was that, as we were saying, we used our methodology called the working backwards of digital innovation, and it has, I would say, a standard set of questions. It's a very 5, I would say, key questions we ask whenever we are starting whenever we are starting a project or trying to solve a problem. And we've seen that these questions, which I'm going to share in a moment, are pretty basic, but they're very deceptive. And what you would see in the organizations when you trying to solve a kind of a tech-based problem, especially, is the technology, the IT, the business, the users, the CXOs. Everybody has a different view of things, of what they want to do, right? And what this methodology and these questions do is it kind of gives you a North Star vision, aligns everybody, gives the clarity. And the first question we often ask is, who is the customer? Who is going to use the solution you're trying to develop, and what is the problem you're trying to solve. Now, these questions seem simple, but they're deceptively simple, I would say. If you ask all the different people, they will have a different answer to this. And for such a complex problem like this, when the initial conversations with Malgosia came through and we were trying to apply this methodology, we did a few kind of what we call as frame the challenge calls. We wanted to kind of understand the user landscape. And as Malgosia was saying, it's very complex. You have, the municipalities, you have the national governments, you have the wind developers, you have the regulatory, you have the assessment of birds and the marine life in offshore case. So there's lots of stakeholders, and we wanted to do was we wanted to zero into who is the primary user. Let's break that process down. Let's figure out who that primary user is, because you won't be able to make everybody happy at the same time. We need to start with finding that sweet spot of where that bottleneck is. Whom do we need to work with? So that was the first question we asked, and that's how we got to the municipality in Denmark. And we were quite lucky that we were able to get actually a municipal officer, Jakob, coming from Denmark, West Himmerlands, to join us in the workshop, right? So we could have sat in a London conference room and said, okay, let's use technology to troubleshoot that process. But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to go deep. We wanted to really talk to the humans behind it who were facing the challenges. And the questions we asked was, okay, Jakob, what makes you want to throw out your computer on Monday morning? What is your real pain point? That was the question we started, and I think that kind of made the difference in our approach. I don't know, Malgosia, if you have something to add, but I was, hats off to Malgosia to kind of understanding the need for diving deep into, the first question, who's the user, and, actually getting Jakob. But I would love to hear how Malgosia's experience was when she saw this in action.
I have to admit, Pradeep, that the first time that we talked, I was like, what is he talking about? with this whole backwards working technology. But then I think it's the questions that you started asking. It's at one point I've realized that this is exactly what we have to do. Is to your analogy, we need to understand who do we want to invite around the table to have a good dinner, right? I think that the whole exercise of really spending time on understanding who the customers are and who we can help was really key here, because we could have identified, I think if we wouldn't spend so much time on it upfront, we could have easily identified that we're doing it for developers. And that wouldn't at all be the solution that would be game changing, like the one that we have developed. With Jakob, he was instrumental in this whole process, because he's a person that is very hands on. He's the one who is really dealing with all those challenges, and this type of employees, this type of key people in the process, we realize later on they've not often heard what they need. It's people, designing this type of solutions are managers often, are people that are not using it on daily basis. They have a budget, they need to develop something. So they are the ones that are, spending the money and feeling like they have a say, the biggest say on what needs to be developed. Throughout the whole process, when we were actually talking to other Jakobs in different permitting offices, municipalities, we started calling it that what is happening, instead of coming with digital solutions, we started calling it that they are digitalizing the problem. So they basically putting digital, packaging over a problem, saying yes, we have a digital solution, but it's not solving anything. You still have the amount of papers that were coming in a truck. Now they are coming in PDFs, that are basically uploaded somewhere in the system. But there still needs to be someone who is going through it. Often, actually, is doubling the work, because in some places you have to submit in a PDF, but then the person needs to print it or scan it, or print it, and put it in in a real cupboard, in a real folder. So this was really key, what Pradeep was talking about, to understand what, who do we need to get on board to get this input, insights, intel to be able to develop a solution that is really going to help with the problem, and not just pretend that it's helping with the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to there's such an interesting way of putting it, but always going, and we talk about this a lot in other episodes of the show when we talk about building solutions for users. Exactly right. Going and asking and speaking to people that are going to use the system is so crucial. And I encourage anybody watching, again, like this is mainly a kind of optimization FinOps channel, especially if you are building a dashboard for people, developers, managers, different stakeholders. Going and having those conversations like these guys are talking about is so crucial to getting them for adoption, and also to get good feedback so that you can develop something that's going to help them do their job. If, like these guys have said, if they just gone in and been like, oh, this is what we think they need, and it turns out that it doubles the work, or it means that they have to learn a new system and it's actually help solve anything, no one's going to do it. It's not going to speed up any time. We have a couple of points in the chat I'll quickly jump to. Robert's put, you can please some of the people some of the time. And it's like, that's so true. You have to focus on who is important to kind of feedback. And an update on the chickens, they can fly, just not very well. A lot of them are farm raised, have large muscles, which makes them hard to fly. Thank you so much for...
Thank you. Now I know.
How we know. But yeah, Olivia, sorry, I think you're going to say something.
Could I add another tip to what you said before?
Of course.
And that might be a bit controversial. Don't do what people are asking you to do. You know, we had so many conversations where there was a group of people sitting in the room in one of the ministries, for example, saying, "Oh, we need to have this permitting platform, and we would like to have here that workflow, and this needs to be PDF, and here we need to have drag and drop function." And if we were like, I think, like a usual kind of team developing this sort of tool, without this understanding of the whole process, we would just do something that would be completely, maybe not completely, but it wouldn't be at all really bringing the solutions that it should. So I think that the role of what I really liked about working with AWS and with Accenture is that we really try to work in a way with the customers that we would help them to optimize and not just deliver what they wanted. And in the moment that they would realize that we are talking to them and suggesting different solutions, not because we want to get more money or we want to do something or we don't want to do something because we don't know how to do it, but it's because we really understand the process. We also learned from other countries, other customers, and we can then apply it in a way that it's going to be really an optimized solution. So just don't follow and don't do one-to-ones what people are asking you to do.
Yeah. I mean, I always think of Rick, who's been on this show a lot. He's the product manager for some of the optimization tools. And whenever we talk about feedback from customers, it's not, I wish the product did this. It's, what's the problem with the product? Like, what do you need to be better at? Don't tell the developers how to develop. You tell them what you need from the tool, the product, service, and then they'll build it the best way. The same even with AI. I had an interesting conversation with someone today saying, don't tell Amazon Q, I need you to build a Lambda function to do this thing. Tell it, I'm trying to build this. What's the best way possible? Because it's going to make better decisions than you in terms of the development of it. But Pradeep, so that's the first question that you ask when you start this kind of process. Do you want to take us through like the rest of them? Keep going.
Yeah, I would say the next question is what is the biggest pain point and what evidence do you have? And we do this, the aha moment which happens, which I often see in most of our customer working backwards workshops, is when we start doing what we call as customer empathy map. So I go back to Malgosia's point of, you can just ask somebody like, what's the problem? And they would just say, oh, I'm spending time with XYZ. The process is broken. But that's not specific enough. We want to go a little bit deeper, and we do this like very cool exercise. It's basic, but I love this exercise when we do. I call it the customer empathy map, right? And in this customer empathy, we kind of break down and say, what are you trying to achieve really? What is the step? Why, what's the behind of this step? What are you actually trying to do? And what is influencing your decision? So we go kind of beyond the process to the feelings and the goals and what is the motivations behind every step which person are doing. And the aha moment which happened in this case for me was we were working with Jakob on, how the process is broken. And we asked him, like, what do you want to do actually? What would you rather spend your time, than processing these 450-page applications? And he was like, I'm actually part of this community and I would like to love spending time with them and, inform them of what's happening. I'm like, that's brilliant. Why don't we build these features into a product where the communities can actually see live status on the project? They also have a the transparency which is needed for the community. So instead of just focusing on let's digitize this process and just use technology, we actually started shifting of how do we give time, Jakob, to initiate those conversations with the communities, and how do we enable the local communities to see the status of the process. So these are the kind of aha moments you get when you start asking some of these harder and deeper questions and the why behind this. And I think that's my favorite exercise, which I do with almost every user I speak to. This called as a customer empathy map. Malgosia, anything for you to add?
I think the best example maybe to show how this methodology and the process, how successful it was, is again coming back maybe to Jakob. When we invited him for a meeting, he wasn't happy at all because I don't know actually how we managed to get him for today's workshop to Brussels. Probably because he never been to Brussels and he likes chocolate. So he has this pile of work, all those different projects. He told that it's completely swamped with work, and so really getting him from his office to come for 2 days, it was a challenge. And he came and he was so not hopeful that we can help him, and he was basically saying like, yeah, look, it's not so bad, it's only 3 years I think that he has for the whole process compared to 8 years in other countries. It's not so bad. Denmark's not doing so badly. So yeah, I don't know if you can help me. We tried different things. I don't know, and I don't like technology. He showed us his phone that he's mainly using to actually call his girlfriend. So he said, I'm not a big technology user, so you can try. Give me a box of chocolate, and I go. Yeah, that was pretty much the beginning of it. And then we could see like gradually with this customer empathy exercise that Pradeep is talking about, he felt like, yeah, it's about him. It's about him. It's about understanding where his challenges are. And he started really to picture himself, to really to see himself in this challenge, and trusted us that we want to do something that is going to help him. And we had those different workshops afterwards. We had those aha moments where where most of the people they would start with like, oh yeah, whatever, you're not going to help me, or I don't like the new technology. And then there was a moment with this mapping where they would say, what, can you really do that? This would be game changing. This would save you so much time. So Jakob did several workshops with us, and I think the best example to illustrate how we managed to do something that got the support and trust of people like Jakob in those municipalities, that it can be really helpful, is that Jakob, from a guy, don't talk to me, we managed to convert him to a guy who went with us like 6 months later to COP in Abu Dhabi. Sorry, was in Abu Dhabi. Where was it? COP 2 years ago. The COP 2 years ago, where he was the biggest ambassador for the tool for us. He was going to different panels, telling people his story, how he was reluctant to at the start, but then he understood how this can be really helpful. So he came with us to COP to help us to promote easy permits as a very easy to use, user-friendly solution with people that are really dealing with this issue in the center of it, and being part of the whole development, so that it is for them.
That is amazing, that turnaround, and to get someone involved. And we'll show you in a bit, but this is the website for Easy Permits. It's in the chat if you want to go and have a look and learn like more in detail. But that's a great thing. He's kind of transformed. And was he a technical person? No, okay. That's your basis there, because the reason I ask is because that there's so many different roles out there in the world in terms of jobs that make a company work, right? And the tech side of it, after that, and I used to be a developer, and I think there's a lot of people who kind of are like, oh, it's so easy, of course we can just build this thing because that's how we work. But if you ask me to deal with legal documents or any kind of HR systems or even cooking sometimes, I wouldn't know how to do it, right? There's so many parts of the company that are so important. And the tech side, I think, often come off as quite smart because they're like, oh, I'll just make it. It's easier. I can save myself time. And once you expose these other roles to that, it is like a game change. Like you said, it's amazing. And I've had that before when I was a customer. And even I'll put my hands up, and everyone knows I've become like a Q ambassador in the last year for Amazon Q. At the start of the year, if you'd have told me that I would be speaking at reInvent about Gen AI and doing a Twitch series about it, I would have been like, me? Because I hadn't seen the use case for it. But as soon as I took the time and I figured out like, oh, this will make my life faster. And people, it's because we're always trying to be faster at stuff, but we're trying to be faster at things that we don't like to do. And so that's good. That's fine. So if anyone's out there copying any data for your FinOps reports, go find a dev and they'll teach you how to make it faster, I'm sure. But Pradeep, go Marcos, yeah.
Maybe just on that one, you said that here one of the challenges is actually with people. Again, we need to imagine where those projects are happening, right? In most cases, those projects, big infrastructure projects, they're not happening in the middle of the big city, but they are happening in rural areas. And it's people working there in municipality that is next to a small village or in a small village that I feel. Probably we all know that they have they had limited access to modern technology. They were maybe not experiencing, so much of the digital transformation. And now there is a European regulation. Actually, there's a European law that is telling all the member states, look, you have to do the permitting for renewables faster. You have 2 years to do it. You have to digitalize. You have to have one-stop shop. And what is happening is that the people that are not the most technical people or technology friendly, like our beloved Jakob, they are basically asked to start using a system that comes, with 2 weeks training, for example, So and something that they don't necessarily, not only that they are not technology lovers, so that's the first the first obstacle, but they also it comes in a very complicated way. So for us, also the starting point was like, if you have now people, almost everyone, regardless whether it's in a rural area or in the city, you know how to use a smartphone, you know how to download photos, you know how to edit photos, how to download different applications. So this was our starting point. If there are so many areas of our life that can be done through app, or you are forced to use another banking, school, then this can also be as easy as that. So it has to be intuitive. It has to be something that can be used in a very easy way without the training. And I think that's also something that is very different of our tool compared to anything else that is on the market, because of that approach. That it has to be easy. It cannot be something that people have to then study how to do it with 2 weeks training. Again, being out of the office and the work just piling up. For them to study, and like this, we create we create this feeling like, no, I don't want to use it. So again, you're not coming with a solution that is going to be widely used, because if this is the approach, I mean, you need people behind it, and that's and this people-centered approach. I think it was the game-changing element of this whole product development.
Definitely. Speaking of like the application, Pradeep, do you want to kind of share the prototyping side of this? Because I think you work with our kind of the PACE team, which sits in CAT as well, right?
Yeah. In this case, we work with our digital partner Accenture, and we have many partner teams who can develop, including our own PACE team who does the prototyping. But before I go to the PACE team, I think one thing I like to share here is there is one phase of working backwards which we spoke about, was the listen and define. Like, this is where we're asking questions, we're empathizing with them, we're figuring out where the problem is. But the second part, really where we shift gears and we start inventing, is what is the solution? How are we going to design this? The prototype or the bigger vision for the solution. And I would like to share another kind of exercise we do, because people block out. You can ask tough questions, go under the surface and start figuring out where the problem is. But when it comes to kind of inventing and coming up with the features and what will actually solve the problem, as Malgosia was saying, there are two aspects, two types of problem solving. One is, let's just digitize the paper application. That's not what they want, right? They're still going to struggle. So we want to kind of reimagine the process. We're not just, how can the technology actually help the user? And we do this exercise called what if, and we ask them, what if you could reimagine? What if you could just take down all the constraints, because Jakob is thinking, this is never going to work. I still have to do this and I still have to do that. We're like, Jakob, take out all your constraints out, what if I were to give you a magic wand? What is the thing big here? How would you reimagine, right? It's as simple as that. You ask the simple question and people, start dreaming like a kid. And, everybody has the experience of Airbnb, shopping on Amazon, Uber, right? Why not bring that experience, to our applications and on the work side, on the process side? And that's when people say, like, I would like to have this, as easy as, the solution telling me the actions I need to take. Why do I have to go and, go through it? So this stage of doing that what if exercise, thinking big, is a key to kind of set the stone, set the, build that North Star vision. And then you can figure out, I always say, stubborn on the vision, flexible on the details. There are many ways of getting to that vision, and we'll build the technology and who builds it, and we'll get the right team in. But make sure you've got that vision of what are we trying to achieve. So that's the exercise we do in what if, that kind of sets the scene. There's another exercise which we do, and it's part of kind of writing the press release. We say, if you were to launch this product, what would that press release say? Because that kind of forces you to think about what the solution is going to do, how the user is going to respond. And I do this, within that press release, you'll always see a customer testimonial, right? Of what would you want, the user to say. So I asked Jakob this question. Let's say, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year down the line, this is in your hand. What do you want to say? Your experiences, and it's so eye opening, the kind of things they say. It makes them feel happy, and this quote comes to my mind from the Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman, and he used to say, nobody ever made a decision on data alone. Everybody needs a story, a good story behind it. Right? So it's just finding that story, taking it to the next level. What would make it successful? And we call it, what would make the users love this product? That's why we call it, it's not just a viability we're checking. We're looking for the lovability of the product. What is that one feature we want to give? And we want to develop this minimum lovable product. So we start scoping that out. So after we had done the, the visioning, we often go into the scoping and figuring out what is that, that 1 or 2 features that would make this, this person love this product, and, make Jakob stand up and, talk in front of and become an ambassador, right? That's what we are aiming for. And I think that next exercise of inventing, scoping, figuring out that what those lovable features are, that's where you start kind of, getting to the development stage and actually proving the value. One of the main questions in this, the 5 working backwards question is, how are you going to describe this experience to the user? How are you going to test it? And those are the key questions we are trying to answer. And I think, that kind of gets us, accelerates the building process. We want to test it as quickly as possible with the real users.
Brilliant. And just on like the solution that you guys made, question from the audience is, does it utilize Gen AI in the infrastructure at a high level? No detail. Do you use any of it?
In the solution?
Yes.
Pradeep, do you want to say?
Yeah. No, I think when we did this workshop, this was like 2 years ago, the Gen AI was not the fad then. So it was more around how are we going to get the process sorted and how we're going to use some of the AI features. We didn't used to call it Gen AI, but there were smart features which we identified, which with Gen AI can be accelerated now. So things were like,
it is.
Instead of saying, Jakob, kind of, trying to figure out the permit applications, how can the system actually interact and tell Jakob to look at these 2 things, which will help accelerate the process. So we identified those features. We didn't call it Gen AI at that time, but I'm sure with the, with how the technology has evolved. And as we say, whenever we do the working backwards, the press release and the FAQs we write, and the artifacts we produce is always evolving. Whereas there's new technology, there's new needs, and we always keep on implementing it. But the vision remains the same. How are we giving back, Jakob, the time and the experience he needs?
Yeah, I love it.
If I may,
refreshing. Cannot have it. Go on, is it?
If I may add to that, Pradeep, Accenture is actually now developing also this element of Gen AI into the tool. So they're going to present something very soon, but they're working on it.
Nice. Yeah. It's nice this is mainly focused on what we said at the very start, which is we're focusing on the problem, not what technology to use. So it's actually quite refreshing to be like, no, we focused on the challenges and we spent more time discussing these things. And we've only got about a little bit over 5 minutes left. So I know that I wanted to ask, like, when testing this, you obviously spent time with Jakob and doing and that kind of things, but how did you approach the kind of testing of the application and solution, Margaux, when you're working with those people that are going to use it?
So the testing, we've done the testing in Denmark with this municipality where Jakob is coming from. We have identified some projects that were the past projects. It was a real data, but not tested in the real time. So it was Jakob, but also there was a developer, so a company that has had one of the projects in the municipality. So they both they were so we wanted to see whether the tool works for. Actually, it wasn't when it was done at stages. So he was involved, Jakob himself, he was involved at different stages of the tool's development, so he could give us comments while building the tool. And then at the final testing, it was a team made of the main users. So users being Jakob, the developer, and then there was this community side that they were also looking at the information there, seeing how this information would be useful to the community, what information, when it needs to be there, what type of information, because that was another problem, that the information given to the community was done in a language that no one could understand. It was basically all those big files, very technical details that were submitted there somewhere in a link. Behind 1,000 pages on the municipality website or on the board behind the local church, and people were supposed to basically look at it. So that was also one of the features that we have tested as part of the tool development. It was quite difficult for us, and it was not the main objective to see how much time they could save, even though that's something we wanted to look at. But because it was not a project done in a real time, they could make an estimate, and they made an estimate that they think that using this tool they could do at least 3 times more projects at the same time.
Wow.
So that was a very good outcome for us. Pradeep, you talked about flexibility. So we've also learned, talking to other Jakobs likes in other countries, in other regions, that it's that whether it's a permit for wind or solar or any big infrastructure project, the process is the same. So we just need to. So there is the challenge, the process, the challenges are very similar. We just need to be flexible with making sure that that we have the right people on the table, making sure that, so it's not again like a solution that one size fits all. And we wanted to make sure that there's always this, flexibility element that we can adapt to really what the real people, what they need, those that are dealing with the challenge, depending on the region, depending on the technology that they are permitting. We can deliver a solution that allows them for some customization at any time. So to cut my long story short, the main outcome of it is that very user friendly. It works. It can help to save time, the time that can be dedicated to more important tasks, like where the human interaction is very important and can make a difference. And in the Danish case, they said that they could do 3 times more projects at the same time. Amazing. Which was a big win, and we're very happy with it.
Brilliant! That is so cool. And just like the kind of length of this whole story is just like focusing on the problem, and that's the big piece of advice I think from today. Focus on the challenges, and as if there's anyone wants to learn more about this whole working backwards process, feel free to email costoptimization@amazon.com and we can kind of chat in with that. We're just about to wrap up, but Pradeep, anything else you want to say? Just close it up. Margosio finished a very cool statement of just like how much of an impact this has had, but anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I would just maybe like to share that kind of the three key takeaways, especially on the working backwards and how you can apply this, a process to your own optimization stories. I would say the first thing is start with the real user pain points. Don't assume, talk to humans. That's the secret sauce. If you can't explain the problem to your grandmother, you haven't understood it yet, right? The second thing is don't just digitize and throw technology for the sake of it. Rethink the process, right? It's like, it's not like putting wheels on a hose. You are inventing a car. So think about it. And the third one, would be to test early and think about the various users simultaneously. Right. So I will come back to my restaurant analogy, right? So you want to make your chef happy, your customer satisfied, your, waiters more efficient, and you want to make owners profitable, right? You want to solve for everybody, but you need to find that sweet spot, which will start that optimization process, right? So where you can help one person to help everyone else in the chain. So find that sweet spot.
Thank you for those. Those are great tips. Right, that is almost it. So we're just going to end with our Secret Richard summary. So Richard's been listening, secret in the background. He is not AI, and he has a fun summary. You can check out almost all of our episodes and see what the summary he's written. I haven't seen it, and I have to read it blind. So this week, legacy permit process was enabled to facilitate the new technology. Pradeep and AWS cooked up, I love it, the solution by working backwards. Easy permits benefited all stakeholders by optimizing time, yes, and they successfully turned doubters into believers. I honestly thought there was going to be a chicken reference in here. I'm kind of glad that there is not. And then very last thing, what I'll do is I'm just going to bring up the website. So have a little look at the kind of WindEurope. We put it in the chat as well. So check out this if you want to learn more and watch some videos. We'll make sure that all the videos and stuff will be in the description on our YouTube and stuff like that. If you want to learn more about the Customer Acceleration team, jump into our LinkedIn group to kind of join there to hear about any announcements we have. Speaking of very early announcement of reInvent, at the moment I have 2 sessions at reInvent. I'm just going to drop these up here. The code talk I do about Kerr, and a new one in the dev track about AI and optimization tools. So if you're going to reInvent, make sure to. But that is it. Thank you. The time has flown by so quickly. Thank you. I've really appreciated you coming and chatting and telling this story. Thank you so much to everyone, and thank you very much, chat. And we will see you all next time. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you, Steph.